Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world. It's not Adefemi Akinsanya. She's away on an international assignment. But here is our favorite Niger wife, Vimbai Mutinhiri Ekpenyong. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. How are you?
Have you people received your man back in your state?
Yeah, Dr. Abati.
He left River State
yesterday. I think he's still on his way, headed back to Cross River. But, you know, after doing Thanksgiving and all... No,
please, no Thanksgiving. You should just go.
Ayo, good morning, Rufai.
Giving farewell speeches,
public
lectures on democracy and governance. Interesting. He
has
been very busy. Absolutely.
You know, yesterday, this same hypocrite Ibas, he saw in the acting head of service.
Yes.
And some people are saying this head of service, the last minute you are leaving.
Cross Rivers are hard workers.
Dr.
To the last minute.
But you know, I was teaching you a song before. Gbogbo wa la lọ́wọ́ ńbẹ, gbogbo wa la lọ́wọ́ ńbẹ, bí Nigeria ṣe bàjẹ́, gbogbo wa la lọ́wọ́ ńbẹ. Oh yeah.
No, on that side.
Well,
not this side. You are on your own, on that side of the table.
You are singing the song. Are you part of the people that support Nigeria?
You are no part
exactly.
of it. Let's go to international news.
All of us have a role to play in it.
So that we have enough time.
I'm very innocent.
You
I am innocent.
You that serve in government. You are very
innocent. Let us get straight into the world brief today. We will later unpack. I think we can all write PhDs if we had to break down, you know, whose hand was involved in the spoiling. But let's go internationally, where there's huge discourse around censorship. Now, Donald Trump suggested on Thursday that the TV networks that cover him negatively could be punished by the government after his celebration of ABC suspending late-night host Jimmy Kimmel. Now, of course, if you remember, Adefemi Akinsanya had taken the story yesterday. So he was on Air Force One, and that's Donald Trump, and he spoke to reporters on this flight back to the US from his state visit to the UK. And the president said major US networks were 97% against him.
The networks were 97% against me. I got 97% negative, and yet I won easily. I won all 7 swing states, popular, I won everything. And if they're 97% against, they give me only bad publicity or press. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It will be up to Brendan Carr. Kimmel he was fired. He had no talent. It's a whack job, but he had no talent, and more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent to get ratings, but he had no ratings. His ratings were worse than Colbert, I think. They got rid of Colbert, which was a good thing to do, and when you have a network, and you have evening shows, and all they do is hit Trump. That's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative on in years or something, somebody said. But when you go back and take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that. They're an arm of the Democrat Party.
It is interesting that, of course, he would be castigating someone for criticizing him while criticizing that person. Well, the indefinite suspension of Kimmel's show has prompted numerous calls for a boycott against Disney, that's ABC's parent company, and other major media conglomerates that have refused to air that show. Barack Obama also condemned what he called a dangerous escalation by the Trump administration. He wrote, after years of complaining about cancel culture, the current administration has taken it to a new and dangerous level by routinely threatening regulatory action against media companies unless they muzzle or fire reporters and commentators it doesn't like. This is what he wrote on X. Now, Democratic leader Chuck Schumer also chimed in, and he said America is meant to be a bastion of free speech. Everybody across the political spectrum should be speaking out to stop what's happening to Jimmy Kimmel. However, a video of him advocating for Tucker Carlson's show not to air a couple of years ago further fuels the debate around government government interference with free speech. Now, Carr, who is the FCC chair, further raised censorship concerns when he suggested that the commissions might be looking into the TV show The View. That's another talk show on ABC. Appearing on conservative podcast The Bulwark, Carr was asked if other shows could face similar issues, and he said, quite frankly, I think it's worthwhile to have the FCC look into whether The View and some of these other programs that you have still qualify as bona fide news programs and therefore exempt from the equal opportunity regime that Congress has put in place. Now, we'll quickly turn our attention to the African continent. In a dramatic turn of events, the High Military Court in Kinshasa, that's DRC, Congo, has set Friday as its verdict. That's today in the historic war crimes trial of former Democratic Republic of Congo President Joseph Kabila, which was delayed to grant prosecutors time to present new evidence that could link him to the financing of the M23 rebel group. Now, judges presiding over the highly charged trial announced the one-week delay this past Friday, and the adjournment came after state lawyers requested additional time to evaluate newly submitted evidence. And this evidence reportedly includes witness testimonies and financial documents that prosecutors claim will directly trace the flow of funds from Kabila to the Rwanda-backed M23 paramilitary group. Kabila, who ruled the DRC for 18 years until 2019, faces a litany of severe charges. These include treason, complicity with M23, crimes against humanity, murder, rape, and extensive corruption. The military auditor general has urged the court to impose a death sentence. Now, a significant and controversial aspect of the prosecution's case is the claim regarding Kabila's nationality, with lawyers requesting that the treason charges should actually be reclassified as espionage based on allegations that Joseph Kabila is actually a Rwandan citizen. Unprecedented. We look forward to this verdict because I'm not sure, I stand to be corrected, but I'm not sure we've ever had a president, a former president in contemporary history, being given a death sentence. So that would be, if it does turn that way, that would be quite out of the ordinary.
So you see, the two issues are related because they're all a case of dictatorship. The problem is political. When Felix Tshisekedi got in, Joseph Kabila was holding his own turf. In fact, it was a government of coalition. They split everything. Kabila still had a lot of political power. He gave him a prime minister, was holding the parliament. Felix Tshisekedi never liked it. In fact, this morning I was busy rummaging one of my books, Benkele Mess, where I wrote about an anecdote that months after Felix Tshisekedi got into power, Joseph Kabila was still using the presidential private jets, despite not being president, and he had not vacated the villa. Just to show you the kind of power. Tshisekedi finally got his way, pushed Kabila out, and he consolidated on power. When he consolidated on power, Kabila went to visit people in Goma. Tshisekedi is now using this trumped-up charge. He said he has evidence he must have to provide that he's funding M23. That's the Congo de Fleur rebel. So there's a political backtext to all of this. A lot of people have said Tshisekedi is also trying to establish that dictatorial tendency that Kabila had. So it's a case of two dictators fighting. But while all of this happened, poverty and insecurity continues in Congo. There's a saying that where logic ends, Congo begins. Vibai, for the sake of balancing, because you were not balanced today, you were talking about where Chuck Schumer was saying they should cancel somebody. You didn't also talk about the tweets Carr made from 2019. I can read some of them to you. I have those tweets here.
Go for it. I didn't have enough time.
Where he was saying, he was talking in favor of free speech and said, no, you cannot censor free speech. Free speech is the counterweight. It is a check on government control. That is why censorship is the authoritarian's dream. So based on Carr, the same person that is in the middle of the censorship that Trump is using to censor today, based on Carr's tweet, Trump is an authoritarian. So this is the balancing I wanted that I didn't see. So let me now break down the points. All of these networks is just because of business gains. Trump again went on air to lie. Jimmy Kimmel is talented. Colbert is talented. All of these were business gains. the first one, in Colbert's case, there was supposed to be a deal that CBS was supposed to do. In this case of Jimmy Kimmel, Nexstar is one of those that carry the highest, ABC's affiliates. And because of that, Nexstar wants to bite again. And they need the FCC to be able to remove a cap so that they'll be able to bite again. It's a $6 billion deal that's going to pass next year. And they know that if the FCC doesn't pass up against it, they will not be able to acquire it again, another company that has media houses. Okay. So that's why they are doing the bidding of FCC and Donald Trump. Okay. So it's all dictatorship 2.0. That's just it.
All right, make America great again. It's interesting that this is President Donald Trump's mantra, yet free speech in a democracy has been one of the greatest things about America. Indeed, the world looked to the United States of America as a bastion of free speech, of democratic principles. And so we see that now almost being decimated by President Donald Trump, who has talked about making America great again. It's not just about the economy, it's also the values and the belief systems of America. And I believe this move in censorship and clamping down on media, as it seems, and the press is moving away from that mantra that's synonymous with him. A number of late-night show hosts on TV had come out in solidarity with Jimmy Kimmel following the suspension, even though Trump touts it as a cancellation of his show. From Jimmy Fallon to Stephen Colbert himself, whose show has been cancelled for next year, came out and said that every one of them are Jimmy Kimmel, and if they don't stand up against this, then this might the same fate might befall a number of them. Actors, Hollywood actors, have come out as well, standing up for Jimmy Kimmel and standing against a clampdown on free speech in America, saying that this was not what America looks like and what America ought to be. But beyond that, I think it's also important to share that when we look at Trump himself, right before becoming president, Trump himself advocated for free speech. Recall in 2021 when Twitter deplatformed him in censorship. He went to court and challenged, the challenge was, alongside 5 people, challenged Twitter's rights to take him off the platform because of the infringement of his rights and his free speech. So it's interesting to see that for someone who spoke out and even fought against that and went to Truth Social, established his own platform, Truth Social, to counter Twitter, has now come out to be intolerant to criticism himself. Trump is not one to keep quiet. You know how he came for the Democrats, especially Joe Biden, when he was president. So it's quite almost hypocritical to see him now clamping down on others, saying that all they talk about is Trump. He's the president. They are going to talk about him. They're going to criticize him. He's not going to like a number of things. But I think using the tools of the FCC is quite a shame for a country like America, and it's taking them a lot of steps backward. And that's why many people are coming out. By many, I mean, stakeholders in the industry, hosts like Jimmy Kimmel himself, Hollywood stars have come out to speak, and other media and platforms have come out to speak. Brendan Carr saying that The View is next. That would be such a shame. The View, we know how they speak, very vocal, and how they, in terms of criticism, if he comes after them, they're probably going to be the next to be axed, because this is something that has been going on. But beyond that, going to DRC. Now, the interesting part of the case, which some commentators have touted that they might not have a judgment today based on the fact that there are facts that have emerged that he might not even be from DRC. But this is not the first time. For a while now, his father himself had been touted as well, being from Rwanda, and even being said that he was born in Tanzania. If that happens, the charge against him of treason will not stand, because you can only be charged with treason if you're a citizen of that country. However, it can then be espionage, meaning that he was a foreign body who had come to be president and was doing it to sabotage the country. So interesting case here. It'll be great to see how it happens. Also, finally, last year, the moratorium on the death sentence was lifted. And so we can see how this has played out just in time for them to push for a death sentence for himself now.
Okay, let's start with the US. There's something called modern autocracy. And what is happening in the United States will seem to be a perfect exemplification of authoritarianism, and a situation whereby the government weaponizes regulatory powers of the state to go after people that they do not like, or to go at anybody who expresses an opinion that they do not support. Therefore, the major point in this regard is an assault on the First Amendment. The First Amendment guarantees free speech. But under Trump administration, we see a selective respect for, for the First Amendment based on hypocrisy and a blinkered view of reality. And this is not the first time that it is they've done this. Stephen Colbert's name has been mentioned. There's also a lady called Karen Attiah, who used to write for the Washington Post. She was also targeted. There's Matthew Dowd of the MSNBC. The latest now is Jimmy Kimmel, who has been cancelled by Nesta and also by MBS. Now Trump is saying that NBC is next. Just hack down, some of the people who express views that Trump doesn't like. Trump doesn't like many people. After all, he just came from the UK to visit the king. He said he didn't want to see Mayor Sadiq Khan, Sir Sadiq Khan. And he was boasting, even that same Air Force One. So I didn't want to see him. He's one of the worst mayors in the world. Who is he to determine for the people of the United Kingdom who is a good mayor, who is not? So now his next target is NBC. And so you see this authoritarianism, you see this hypocrisy. What did Jimmy Kimmel do? It was said to have made a remark about the murderer of Kirk by saying, oh, he's one of you people on the right wing, and you people, you don't want to identify with him. Whereas in reality, he belongs to the left wing. So there may be an error there on his part, but, Nesta, because of their own business interests, were very quick to hack him down. They run about 200 radio stations, and that's going to be a major blow to him, of course. And then his station also says, well, we don't want trouble. Everybody doesn't want trouble. They are avoiding, Trump. However, it's not only in the United States that we have seen this assault. Take Hungary, where you have a prime minister called Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban is even worse. And we just hope that this kind of example that Trump is promoting in the so-called free world will not be emulated by African dictators. Because when African dictators hear the phrase modern autocracy and how to weaponize regulatory authorities, they may think it as a standard practice. I did not do it because they always like to say, they are doing it in America.
Yeah. I did not do it.
Finally, as for the Democratic Republic of Congo, what haven't they done to Joseph Kabila? They seized his assets. They stripped him of immunity. They have taken him to court. They have said he's no longer from DRC. They have said he's trying to remove Felix Tshisekedi from power, colluding with the Rwandan president. In fact, they say he's Rwanda. And then they say he's the one sponsoring the M23, maybe perhaps he's in Goma. However, he says no, that is not true. That in fact he's trying to build peace. And he was away from the country since 2023, but he came back and stayed in the Eastern part in Goma, and then they brought up this particular case. In August, General Lukilila was the one who, the military prosecutor, who said the death penalty is the right thing for him in terms of treason, homicide, genocide, rape, about 9 counts. However, his political party says this is a matter of political persecution and that the judiciary is also being used to abuse the process. Well, would they give him the death penalty? We wait for the court, because the court is also a court that is under the control of Felix Tshisekedi. The sad part of it is how we use institutions in Africa to play the politics of vengeance, to play the politics of vendetta. Yes. This is the main problem. Yes. And at the end of the day, the reverberations may go beyond now, yes, may go beyond M23 and whatever politics Felix Tshisekedi and his parliament playing, because the Senate voted overwhelmingly, yes, to strip Kabila of that immunity. So even the politicians are complicit. So institutions in DRC are being used to serve the purpose of authoritarianism.
All right. Okay. I think there's a major point there that our courts should not be used as a battleground to settle political scores. Let's quickly take a look at our headlines. We're going to get through them very quickly. We begin with This Day newspaper, where most newspapers today are focusing on a governor we can't locate. Here's a governor that we can locate. That's Governor Peter Mba, who says Enugu will use coal to generate 1,000 megawatts of electricity. He spoke at the Meet the Governor series held by the Nigerian British Chamber of Commerce, where he presented a business case for investing in Enugu State, where he included updates about the 80% reduction in crime in his state, completion of the International Conference Center. We know that the just concluded Nigerian Bar Association conference was held there. Now, just to put things in context, Enugu has over 600 million metric tons of proven coal reserves. And we know that coal mining in the state dates back to the early 1900s. And coal mining is that driver that even led to the construction of rail lines during colonial times, like the Eastern Line from Enugu to Port Harcourt. So the governor is vowing that coal will not be a stranded asset and that they will use it to drive development in the state. Of course, above that is Osun State, which has been unpacked in great detail. Osun PDP asks the Federal High Court Chief Justice to probe suspicious letters in local government funds case, as a letter said to have originated from the office of the Chief Judge directing that a case before a vacation judge be heard by that judge substantively. Well, the allegation is that this letter was not signed by the judge himself, but by a personal aide. Still on the front page of This Day, but also echoed in other newspapers, tributes pour in for the victims of the Afriland fire. President Tinubu, Atiku, Sanwo-Olu, Peter Obi mourn. Daily Trust also takes that headline. Daily Trust says Lagos fire, survivors, experts blame slow response as 11 have now been confirmed dead. Important to note, however, that Lagos State have exonerated themselves from blame, stating that the fire service arrived on time, although there was some mechanical and human failures. So there's a report that also said that the building is said to have been adequately prepared for any emergency of that nature. To The Guardian, for a story that you all have also discussed in great detail, but we cannot overestimate the importance. Brain drain, exhausted doctors, long wait times test public hospitals' care capacity. Doctors have also turned to patients and even victims under the pressure of the fragile public healthcare system, with some doctors reporting that they now work for up to 24-hour shifts. And this is just juxtaposed with patients who are now forced to wait for long hours in the government hospitals before they can see a doctor or even a consultant. Of course, we know that this will naturally cause a high staff turnover rate, and we know what's next. It's Japwa to those who can. Now to Punch newspaper for that big story of the day, emergency rule, uncertainty in Rivers as Fubara delays return. The New Telegraph also focuses on the story, Rivers Assembly to probe Iba's spendings as sole administrator. We have our reporter on the ground in Port Harcourt at the airport because there is an anticipated arrival of Simon Alaye Fubara this morning. And they're already well-wishers and, all the folks we saw at Government House yesterday. Today, they've shifted their location to the airport in anticipation of the governor's arrival. Now to our international headlines very quickly. The Guardian UK focuses on the conclusion of that state visit by President Donald Trump to the UK and some parting words, if I may call it that, to Keir Starmer. He says, use the military to stop channel crossings. This is also echoed in the Times UK, where Donald Trump says immigration is destroying UK. He says that, they share this problem and that the only way to deal with it is by using the military. Advice from Donald Trump. I wonder whether Keir Starmer would yield to this type of advice.
I think that's why there have been concerns, because Starmer is Labour and Trump is Republican, and usually their values or their ideologies differ. So it's
they got on like a house on fire yesterday.
That's a criticism from that. But thank you so much, Adife. Bimbai.
Although Adifemi is also a very beautiful lady, so I don't mind.
Thank you so much, Bimbai.
Blair got on very well with Bush.
No, I mean in ideology and immigration. Their policies on immigration, they differ. Republicans,
But in this particular case, there was no argument over it.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer.
No, I said the criticism by Labour stronghold leftists have said that their ideologies are not the same. Thank you so much. Goodbye.